How did all Americans end up calling black people African American? Not all black people come from Africa. I've always been confused by this, and I actually asked an American friend of mine because I didn't grow up in America. And she seemed mind blown. She could give me an answer. And I'm not hating, I'm just curious.
Willa and Ellen. Now, tell me what you know about people my color, brown skinned, who were
Indigenous people.
To where? To what land?
To America.
All right now.
States.
And you know that as a little girls, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
All right. I just want to thank you both. Where did you say the Indians were from? Where you
We
are?
have Abenaki up in Vermont.
Okay, and
We have Penobscot in Maine and the Massachusetts.
Everything we've been taught in the American education system is all a lie. Yes, Native Americans weren't the original people of this land. We actually took it from black people. We were so good at it that we just wiped out any trace of their language and their culture.
Dude in that movie, Indian dude in that movie, Indian dude in that movie. And then he couldn't talk unless he was talking about gum. Yeah. You know, I think you're not supposed to say Indian either. Oh wait, really? Yeah. I think you're supposed to call them African Americans. African Americans.
Oh, mangy little black Indian, I'm gonna knock your head off.
Plague the whole place out and then take over their buildings. New York was already there for thousands of years. San Francisco was there for thousands of years. Los Angeles was there for thousands of years. They were built by the indigenous people who were black and Indians as well. Whoa. The black people, they are the original owners of America.
Let me see some ID. All right then. ID. This license says you're Indian. That pinup make you look like a white man. What the hell are you?
I love blacks, I love Asians. Hell, I even love gay aborigines.
And this is what they name you. The slavers name you this. Because I know a white guy who grew up in South Africa. And he now lives in America. He is an African American, and more African American than most. Do you see how African American is a misnomer? It's a misnomer. Don't check that box. It's a title given to blacks by democratic slaves.
100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. Now, have you ever wondered what that passage meant from Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech? I did, and what I found was one of the biggest secrets that's not really a secret at all, except to many African Americans, is they are not descended from Africans. I know, I was shocked too, so much so that I asked Africans, and they agreed African Americans weren't Africans. If you don't believe me, Google Arnaldus Montanus America and see the people he saw.
Presence in the records, there was never that designation. You were identified as mulatto, musty, or any of those other terms rather than Indian.
Such was the effort to erase Indians from history that up until the early 20th century, scientists of academic institutions deliberately altered census records.
In Virginia, there was a leader of the eugenics movement, a man by the name of Dr. Walter Plucker. He changed records of Virginia Indians that were born and recorded as Indian people to say that they were colored. He did this on birth certificates, marriage certificates, on death certificates, on any legal records that he could get his hands on. So since he physically destroyed or changed records of so many Virginia Indians, he essentially committed an act of bureaucratic genocide. on the Virginia Indians. I can't see a more obvious event than what happened in the 20th century in terms of Virginia Indians being written out of history.
Sometimes